UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the United Federation of Podcast Network. I'm your host for today, Chrissie De Clerck-Szilagyi, and joining me are my co-hosts, Brandon Shea-Mutala and Justin Oser. Justin, how are you today?
Well, Chrissie, I'm doing well, all things considered. You know, oftentimes I try to make a joke here, but I'm not going to do that this time. And I'm going to go more in depth into how I am feeling this week when we talk about initial impressions. But good to be here.
All right. All right. Brandon?
I'm doing really good. It is flabbergasting how much room there is in here. Like, it is just humongous in here. How it's crazy. It's like it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside.
Your house is bigger on the inside, yeah. I mean, we have seen that before.
All that unused space, and the first officer has to room with an ensign. Or the first officer has to room with a commander.
Well, they need all the extra room for the turbo lift shaft.
Exactly.
We need to talk about that in the discussion, because I have thoughts for you guys.
Yes, we will. Is on a list. All right, and also joining us today is Russell Skeet, radio host and perhaps best known to our audience as host of Vulcan, the annual convention in Vulcan, Alberta, when there's not COVID. Welcome to Infinite Diversity.
Well, thanks for having me back. It was great being here for the season opener, and as promised, back for the season finale. I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, worked out well, and the names lined up too. So we were very concerned about that at the beginning.
Yeah, we actually got part 2. Yay.
All right. Well, in terms of Star Trek, it was a slow news week, so we don't have anything to report on that front. But we are going to get into our season finale of Discovery, That Hope Is You, Part 2. So, our initial thoughts and first impressions. We'll start with Russell.
Again, I thought it was a really well done finale. I like how the finales work in Discovery. The first 3 years, they tend to wrap up the season and into a nice, neat package, and then they move on, set up a little bit for the next season, which is what I like, versus trying to have that big cliffhanger where you got to wait for, well, who knows how long now, even though they are shooting season 4. You don't know how long you're going to have to wait. So we've got it all wrapped up. Very much enjoyed it. Doug Jones, honestly, is my new favorite Star Trek actor, I think, of all time.
Nice.
I think his and I know we'll get into it later, but his portrayal of Saru is absolutely amazing. It gets stronger every year, and he was a big part of why this episode was fantastic for me. Michael Burnham, you know, at the end, a spoiler alert, kid, she's the captain now. I don't have a problem with that. It was coming. You know, and overall, I thought it was great. I like Brandon's point, though, but I think the ship is bigger between the turbo lifts and outside of them. If that's the way they want to roll with it, that's great. Overall, I really enjoyed the episode. It was nice to see that they solved the burn, got everything else kind of squared away, and I love the ending where Saru goes back to Kaminar.
Yeah, that is a beautiful, beautiful scene. All right, Brandon, your initial thoughts.
So, for me, I haven't really been enjoying the finales of the shows. I think the only one I've enjoyed so far has been the season finale for Lower Decks, and this falls right into that category of the other ones. I was pretty disappointed when I watched it. It's probably, out of the other 4, it's probably the best of the 4, but it still left me wanting a lot, and upon each successive rewatch, I was a little bit less annoyed with it, because it's like, this is what we got. And so I was able to just enjoy it a bit more. But on the whole, I was pretty disappointed in the finale, I think.
Okay. Justin.
Well, as is sometimes the case, I am at the opposite end of the spectrum from Brandon. I absolutely love this finale. It's probably one of my favorite things in Star Trek, and I'm going to tell you why. It's very personally meaningful to me. So, and I don't usually bring in what's going on in the world and current events, but this week, this past Wednesday, we had something happen in the U.S. where a mob that was incited by our president attacked our U.S. Capitol, trying to, stop the democratic process from votes being counted for the next president. And that was extremely upsetting and disturbing for me and for so many others. So that happened on Wednesday, right? And then in the US, this episode dropped the next day. And I have to say, in seeing this episode, especially what was happening toward the end, it gave me so much hope, so much inspiration. It made me feel so much better about the possibilities of overcoming any challenge, any difficulty. And for me, because of that, because of what happened this week especially, it became one of the most kind of personally meaningful episodes of Star Trek that I've ever seen. I've seen it 3 times. I think I love it more every single time. And we'll talk more about why, but I just wanted to give that background. I just kind of love how they wrap things up. I loved what we saw with Saru and Su'Kal, I think was amazing. I love what we see with Burnham. I know that we'll talk about it, but actually seeing her become captain was a lot more moving for me than I thought it would be, and we'll talk more about that. But it kind of had all of the things that I was looking for and that I hope for in Star Trek. So just going to say I loved it a lot.
That's
awesome. All right. Well,
that's awesome.
Yeah. My praise is not quite as effusive.
I didn't expect it to be. It's hard to top that.
I did enjoy it. No, that's all right. You're very right about the context. If this had aired next week in a non-COVID time, I would half believe that they had rewritten the whole thing and reshot it in accordance to what had happened. You know, at least some of it, maybe not the whole thing. But so yeah, I mean, that's Star Trek is a very nice thing to have to watch after an attempted coup.
Yes.
I guess we could say.
Attempted coup on
it's
top
hopeful.
of a historic pandemic. There's a lot going on, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we really need a deep breath, but that's not how it works. So, in terms of my first impressions, initial thoughts, with the exception of a couple things, this could have been the series finale.
Mm-hmm.
They could leave it here, and I don't want them to. Don't get me wrong.
No,
but no. I don't want them to. But you actually could just end it right there, with the exception of trying to bring Gray out of wherever he is, and that Stamets is still angry with Michael. Yeah. Other than that, they went on their boldly going adventures.
Yeah, it's a different chapter that's opening
that's
now,
pretty
right?
Cool.
Yeah.
I do have a question though. When it got to the end, they did kind of the pan of the entire cast, looking very happy except for Stamets, and they did pan Gray at some point. Now, were they able to bring him back with their own 32nd century holo technology now?
I'm not sure. I don't think yet.
That might be something they work on.
No.
Yeah.
I was just curious if they brought him, if he was there, but not there kind of thing. Nobody else could see him but us. And
I think if they would have brought Gray back, he would have been closer to like the 3 of them when they were embracing. But yeah.
I wondered because that left it open for interpretation. I think.
Well, we have seen him in a lot of places when everybody else couldn't.
Yeah,
true. But they never really established if anybody else could see him or not. I kind of got the feeling that Colbert was looking at him, so I wasn't sure if they had managed to bring him back because they talked about they were going to.
Yeah.
And again, with the giant leaps in technology they've had, one would assume that a ship that didn't have holodecks would now have some form of holo technology. So maybe they have. I don't know. I'm just asking the question because they didn't make it super clear. That's all.
But if you remember back in season 1, there is holographic technology all over the ship because Tyler and the captain there, I can't remember his name,
had their target practice. Lorca.
They had their target practice in the hallway.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's right.
So who knows? Maybe was there or not. I don't know. Gray was there or not. Well, we'll find out next year.
Yeah, whenever that happens. Yeah, I don't. I think I feel like they're saving that for maybe an episode.
It would
be
make
really
sense.
Cool if we had an episode around like Doc Zimmerman, the Doctor coming back in, and something about a hollow emitter or something.
I mean,
like
the
that.
mobile emitter is a couple centuries old technology by this point. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I knew at some point they were going to bring Gray back, and how they were going to do it, I wasn't sure. And when they went down to the planet, and hey, there's Gray, awesome. And yeah, you're right. With the mobile emitter being around for a while, you're right. I think they'll probably make an episode out of it. Maybe Gray was there just in spirit, so to speak. But we'll wait and see. I was just curious about that. Just thought I'd ask for your 2 cents on that.
Yeah. I don't know I will be interested to see, and I had this on the outline later, but might as well, because it's just touch on it now. This reminded me this whole time of the next phase on TNG. Like, he's out of phase somehow. I mean, he's not complete, because otherwise, he would be there, but there's something that is keeping him from being seen, but he obviously has some kind of physical form because the holographic environment recognized him. So
Interesting
there's
thought.
something,
He's some kind of mutant trill deal going there. I think that's what's happening. And
it's a little
it
green
didn't
spore.
integrate into the to the symbiote maybe, and so now it's a he runs around kind of on his own, and if they can bring him in, I'm sure they're going to somehow in some way. They're going to figure out how to do it.
Yeah,
I will make a prediction that if he has a physical form, there's a transporter record anytime he went with Adira anywhere with the transporter, and that's how they'll bring him out.
There you go.
I'm just going to put that out there. We'll see.
Apologies, I hijacked the conversation for something else.
No.
I was just curious.
You can see on the page. I had that.
It's on there.
Done. It
Okay,
was just
good.
later.
So check. Yeah.
Yeah, done. Okay. Right. Or we can come back to it if we want to, of course. So, right. So let's start with, is there an A and a B story here? I feel like this is just 2 A stories that are kind of come together. But Su'Kal and the holographic environment and all of them working to get Su'Kal to the point where he can acknowledge what had happened and learning exactly what happened. So, Justin, I know you mentioned that you thought the Saru and Su'Kal relationship was very moving to you, so I'll let you go first.
Sure, yeah, and I mean, of course, this is something that carries over from a couple episodes ago, and there's something about the way that Doug Jones plays it, where he's really trying, or Saru is really trying in this episode in his human form, to kind of gradually get Su'Kal toward the path of acknowledging what's going on and what needs to happen to resolve all of this. And I feel like he does it in such a gentle, such an understanding kind of way. I feel like their relationship is really just beautiful, and seeing that kind of connection, like, and in a way, it is giving him that purpose to help him out. And of course, like toward the end of the episode, when they come out, he's there on Kaminar, and that beautiful kind of starscape of Kaminar, and I guess he's going to be there for a little bit. Saru will be back next season, we know, and we'll see what his role is. But just like isolated to this episode, I just felt like Saru was just like so incredibly like compassionate and really taking baby steps for someone who is kind of still like a child, right? Even if they're over a century old. And you could see it in Su'Kal's expressions where it's like, outside, is that dangerous? Like, what should I'm not sure what to think about all of this. I just thought that the way they wrote it, Saru just handled it like so beautifully, and it was so moving actually seeing like the holographic landscape just kind of fall away, and to see what caused all of this, all of that trauma, and just having to deal with that. And at the same time, having Culber and Adira and Gray there also to support. I just thought it was just so wonderful when Saru was talking about, yes, there can be danger out there, but there's also beauty, there's also diversity. We're all with you. You're no longer alone, and it so fits into the the theme of this episode of connection. He's reconnecting with everything else after being disconnected for so long. So, yeah, I just loved all of those scenes with them together.
The moment that I really liked it, that in the end where you were talking about, was when Su'Kal sees Doug Jones, where he's become Saru again, instead of the human form of him, and he sees him and he goes to him because he hasn't seen somebody basically of his own in reality since his mother died, and when he was a kid, and Saru's been just so good to him and so pleasant and given him everything that he needs. And I think it's just been terrific, and that was just a great little moment when they came together and their heads came together, and you could feel their connection. I agree. I think it was a beautiful moment, and it's one of my favorite of the.
Yeah, I really like that part too, because for Su'Kal to be doing what he does, for Saru to be trying to convince him to shut down the holomatrix, and is a big leap of faith for him, because this is the only life that Su'Kal has known for his entire life. Like, this holographic, I'm sure, was set up way at the beginning, right? Because they crash landed 125 years ago, and they would have created something like this for him to grow up in. And while his mom didn't die right away, she died, I don't know, we don't know how old, right? We don't know how quickly. I mean, he could have been 15 minutes old when she died. We don't know how quickly they grow up, right? These are aliens, so right? Who knows what happened there?
I'm gonna say it's probably a couple.
Right, it probably, but we don't know. They didn't tell us. But that's a big leap of faith for him to have to shut that down. And like what I see when I'm looking at him, like, I think this character knows internally that, like, he's not completely stable. He's got, perception issues and whatnot, because he's been in this degrading environment for so long. And we've seen him struggle with the fact that these are real people that he's interacting with. And these are the first people that he's interacted with for so long. So for him to have to put faith and trust that this is a real person telling him the truth is a big, giant step for him. And when he turns around and realizes that Saru is still there, and realizes that Saru is a Kelpian and has been telling him the truth the whole time, it is a very wonderful moment. It is a very emotional moment. And, adding on to it what we see with Saru, because he's not much involved with the climax of the episode at all, is that him going back to Kaminar. Like, I really hope that we get to spend some time with Saru on Kaminar next year. And again, I've been saying it the whole time, I like seeing our characters separate, focus on this character for a while, focus on these characters. I would love to see a story that maybe even somehow revolves around Kaminar, and our crew has to end up at Kaminar. I'd love to learn more about the Kelpian species, especially now that they're able to grow and able to live to be 125 years old, rather than dying at whatever age the Vihari happened at, right? I mean, like, that to me was one of the most amazing scenes. Like, I think the intention's there that was the same place where Saru was picked up by Georgiou, right, at the end of that episode. Mm-hmm. So for him to look down, and what we saw, comparing the two shots of no technology versus a sprawling cityscape, like, it's a beautiful transition, and I want to spend time there. I want to see what this culture has been able to make of itself.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what role Saru has. I mean, he's not Captain of Discovery at the end of the episode, but is he still a captain in Starfleet? Maybe he'll be, an ambassador from or to Kaminar, or be on the Federation Council from Kaminar. I think there's some interesting possibilities for other things he could do. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I would expect to see Saru, because they're trying to rebuild the Federation, right? Well, who better than to go out and be that first person to bring people back to Starfleet and the Federation than Saru?
See, this calls back to, we've seen this in previous seasons. We saw this in season 2 a little bit, but more so in season 3. Like, when he was interacting with that leader of Nivar, like, he's very good at diplomacy. Right? Yeah. And I think that's going to be his true calling rather than command, which will be an interesting path for this character to go on, because when he's sitting there talking with Su'Kal and trying to convince him to shut everything down and convince him that he's a real person, he's doing it in a very compassionate way, and Saru definitely has a lot of compassion.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he's very good
at
diplomacy.
That would echo Spock's career as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, in an interesting...
He might become like the new Sarek, shall we say, to Michael Burnham.
Saruek.
Saruek.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get over the fact that they've renamed Vulcan Nivar. Yeah. I'm just like, no, that's wrong, no.
Yeah, I have to keep correcting myself on that one,
I do, too. It's like, okay, wait a minute. What are they talking about? Oh, yeah, Vulcan.
I don't know. I've gotten used to it. I'm going to have to correct myself when we get back to, like, 24th or 23rd century Star Trek to call it Vulcan, but,
Yeah, that works. Yeah. Then by the time you get to the end of that series and we're back to Discovery and you're calling it Vulcan, and it's like writing the wrong year on your checks.
Let's also acknowledge here that all of the Star Trek that we see after this, that's new Star Trek, is going to be a prequel to this season. So... It's going to be an interesting thing to be thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of jumping back and forth between. What's that? What's that again? What did they do? Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of century
Well,
hopping.
there's all sorts of opportunity here for short treks and limited series too. I mean, I would love to see, like, just let's have short treks of like 2 or 3 ships and what happened exactly when the burn happened and how did they deal with it.
Do you want to see a short trek where the entire crew dies?
You're right.
Okay, well, let's say on the ships that didn't explode.
See, I'm betting there would be somebody, 1 or 2, that would be stranded somewhere, right? Because they were
that's
a
what I'm
planet
saying.
or something, and they had to make a life where they were at,
Ooh,
or
that's neat.
trying to figure out what to do, and or they could still communicate with Starfleet, but they couldn't go.
Yeah.
So now they're on a planet and having to make a life for themselves there. I mean, that's a great short trek. I like the idea, Chrissy. I think you're absolutely right. This thing just lends itself to some short treks.
Yeah.
At least
I
one.
mean, there's a lot you could do, like what happened after the burn, what happened before. There's just such
Yep.
a huge period of time just to see. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I felt like there was a theme of parenting in a lot of this episode. And because you have the stuff with Culber and Stamets and Adira, and then by extension of that to Gray, okay? You have Vance talking about children. Mm-hmm. We're going to come back to that because that's something's not quite settled there for me. But Saru certainly takes on a fatherly role for Su'Kal. There's no question in my mind to that, and that was intentional. And that made me wonder if Saru had, prior to being reintroduced to Kaminar last season, had he, resigned himself to never being able to have children. And now he can take on this young old man, I guess, as a son, and he's back with his own people. I'm assuming that, he couldn't have procreated with humans, but I guess it's Star Trek, so you can do whatever. But
I don't know. I mean, there's been an interesting thing in Discovery where for a lot of the characters there hasn't been much of a focus on romance. For Saru is all about let's do this and that, and that's not something that he's involved in. But yeah, it would be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, Michael Burnham is the only one with a love life. Everybody else seems to be kind of incels.
Well, I wouldn't use that
Culber
term.
And Stamets are, they're an old married couple, but I think they're probably still happy together.
Yeah. What I meant is not that there's nobody but Burnham, but I don't think there's what you might see in past Star Trek where it's let's have this character have a romance of the week or something. I don't see that. So. Yeah.
I don't, I wasn't even thinking of it from the romance part. I was actually, there was a parallel with Picard in my head. Just of okay, I've decided this isn't important in my life, but then something changes and maybe it is now.
I agree with your first point. I think he was maybe out of sight, out of mind, because he wasn't going back to Kaminar anytime soon because of the Prime Directive at the time, which is now washed. So you're right. It might be entering his head at some point that, hey, wait a minute, I can go back and I can have a family and I can have that life. And to me, I think that lends itself to being maybe the Federation ambassador versus the captain of a starship.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you're more stable. Let's jump into what we see when the hologrid finally shuts down. And that is an absolutely... It was, for me, a gut-wrenching scene. And I was also very... I don't want to say surprised, but it was a little out of character for Star Trek to have what was very obviously a decomposed body just sitting there. So once the body bags, you can understand that. She couldn't bury them. She couldn't do anything with them. She was the last one left, and then you just see. But of course, as a child, he wouldn't have been able to deal with that. So I think that just made it all the more poignant for me.
Yeah. That there's still, the bodies are still there.
Yeah, so what I interpreted that scene when she shut everything down was that, before people started dying, she had activated the holomatrix, right? And she knew she was dying. And so, the bodies were there and covered by the holomatrix so that he couldn't see them, but he also couldn't see her being sick. She would have created a version of herself that was stable for him to interact with. I think that was my interpretation of the scene.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Well, I was the literal, when you see when they walk into the room, you can see what's left of her uniform, and there's dirt around it or dust. Mm-hmm. Did you guys?
No, I didn't notice
that.
Yeah. And they didn't necessarily show her body, so to speak, but it was just the remains. The thing I thought was interesting though was when they showed the recreation of what happened in her last minutes, and then they show basically the burn. And the whole time I'm thinking this is as he's doing it, I'm like, oh crap, he's going to do it again, because the way it resonated out and away from the ship, and you're like, well, and
that was still from the hollow recording, seeing it like
it
like
was,
that,
but
yeah.
they also but then they cut to a quick shot outside the ship where you see the energy patterns going away. Now, if that was part of the,
I think that was part of the recreation, but
part of the recording for our benefit, fine. But at the time, I just kept thinking like, oh crap, they're doing it again. Well, this was not a good idea.
Yeah, my daughter actually thought the same thing. She's like, did it just happen again? Because the hologram wouldn't have recorded what happened outside of the ship. So, I mean...
And that's why it bothered me, because they did that cut outside of the ship. You know, and again, if you're watching the recreation, you would not see that if you were in there. Yeah. So it was done maybe for our benefit, and it threw me off just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe they intended that. Writers...
They may well have, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Just kind of, again, bringing it up, going, oh, crap, they did it again. Nice going.
Yeah, so, like, speaking of the burn, so, again... This story's fine. I like Sukal. I like the situation of them, you know, having to save this guy. I like that he's been there for a long time. But I mean, I'm still disappointed that this is the cause of the burn. So, like, I think that this is a disappointing explanation, and I mean, it's hard to grasp that with the rest of the season when this is the main resolution for what they've been searching for. It's very hard to, you know, I don't know, balance that with my feelings on the season, because I love the season. Overall, I think the season is fantastic, and I definitely think that this season is the best season out of all the new Star Trek we've gotten. Right, out of the 5 seasons that we've gotten since season 1 of Discovery, this is definitely the best one. So it's tough to grasp with that internally.
I'm just kind of curious, Russell. We actually talked about this on the previous episode when it was revealed, and I think Chrissy and I liked it as the cause. But I'm curious what you think of that as the cause of the burn instead of being, I don't know, something else or something bigger.
You know, I'll be honest, and I know Brandon will disagree with me on this. I thought it was actually a very Star Trek-y way to kind of deal with it myself. I liked it. You know, the fact that you have the one person who is tied to this planet, who creates it. We all have it in our head. It's going to be some very large, very giant Borgy type thing, huge, big. It turns out to be just a little kid who's scared because his mom died. And he's on a dilithium planet. Okay, I'm going to go with the planet made completely of dilithium and everything. It's a nice plot device. But I just think it was really interesting how they did it. I liked it in the end, and it worked out okay for me, because to me it felt very Star Trek-like. So that's how I interpreted it, and it didn't bother me in the least. I liked it. I mean, I liked how it ended.
I mean, and in a way, I think it's also meant to be something symbolic, right? It's meant to be symbolic of the kind of pain and hurt and damage of disconnection and what it can do. Like, if you just think about it on a symbolic level, and I was thinking about that when they specifically called out connection versus disconnection, and that made sense, and that related to that theme in a way that I think something else wouldn't have, because someone has gotten like so disconnected that they can actually do a lot of damage, and that connection can help to heal that damage. I kind of like that message.
I also, and again, it's a bit plot devicey, but it works for me because they immediately figure, hey, we figured out how to mine lithium out of this planet. Now we have a more or less unlimited supply. We can run our ships again, and we're back in business as the Federation. Yeah. And I think that's great because, you know, again, and I'm sure we'll get into it at one point, I liked in particular the scene where they brought the fellow back from the very first episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
And shook hands, made him a lieutenant, and everything's awesome again. I liked that bit.
Yeah.
And to me, in the end, that was a nice little bit of ribbon tying, shall we say, to get those loose ends together. And because I kept thinking, you know, after we did the first podcast about the first episode, and we spent a lot of time talking about this fellow, we never saw him again.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to see him again. What happened to this guy? Is he still sitting out there eating his breakfast by himself every day and nobody's talking to him? Like what? So now that I feel there's hope for him. And that to me is one of the things I liked about this episode is it shows, okay, well, if there's hope for this one poor guy who's been sitting around for 40 years waiting for more of the Federation to come and help him out or do something or do his bit, now all of a sudden there is that hope. And if there's hope for that one person, there's hope for the whole Federation. And I liked that part of the ending. To me, that's what Star Trek is. It is about hope. You know, we've always had that in there. It's that better future. It's the hope. And I think that was just a very small part of it.
I want to go back to what you were talking about, the dilithium planet there for a second, Russell. So it wasn't, and the burn, it wasn't that I was hoping it was going to be some major, the Borg or some big baddie or something like this that caused the burn. To me, what they were setting up was the fact that it was going to be something with the Federation and the fact that they were forcing people and pushing people to try and come up with a solution to the dilithium problem. So, I was hoping that it was related in some way to that. So now what we've got at the end of this here, and as a direct result of that, the burn was caused, which resulted in basically dismantling the Federation. There's a few select people that are still together, but people were leaving the Federation over this, right? That's what set up the fall of the Federation, and in the end, it didn't have really anything to do with that at all. And so now here we are. Yes, we found this planet with dilithium, but the problem's not solved. I mean,
no, there's still a lot of work to do, and I think they acknowledge that in this episode. This is the start of the real work.
Right, but that's not where I was going with that, though. I mean, they still have a problem with the dilithium shortage, right? So they're still going to be looking for solutions because throughout history of Starfleet and Star Trek, they've been talking about all these planets where there's dilithium and they're trying to get dilithium mining rights, and how many planets are they mining dilithium on? All of that dilithium is gone except for this planet because it was the center of the burn. This dilithium is going to get used up quick because it's not just Starfleet that wants this dilithium. It's going to be all alien races that have warp travel are going to be using this very limited source of dilithium. This is going to get used up quick.
I mean,
well, now it is a planet-sized chunk of dilithium.
Yeah, I think they say in the dialogue that even for the Emerald Chain, it could power them for a really long time. But what they don't get at is now the Federation has this huge source of power that others are going to get their hands on, right?
Yeah.
Well, again, but they've made it so it's very difficult to do. And if they do it right, because being the Federation, they'll be able to go in there and mine it, and they'll distribute it how they see as equitable.
But at a certain point,
I think you're going to find problems in season 4, though, if they go back to this. Now the Federation is deciding who's going to get this dilithium. Yeah. And there are going to be others out there who are going to be going, well, we don't like how you guys are sharing it. We want ours too. It could lead to other problems. But I don't know where they're going to go with season 4.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you're right, Brandon. At a certain point, even if there's a huge amount that can last for a long time, it's going to run out, and they need to think of alternate propulsion systems, finding other sources of dilithium that are like this. Maybe there's similar nebulas that create dilithium planets or something. But I think you are right that it's unresolved, and they've pushed off the problem to another day, really.
But think
very
of it this
American.
Way, though. Well, think of it this way, though. Now, they showed Book being able to use the spore drive, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just Stamets anymore. Yeah. So maybe that might lead them to start thinking a little bit more about the spore drive technology, and that they can get more people involved in running that as well. Because Book, with his empathy and his ability to think in, I don't want to say in the spore fashion that Stamets does, but very similar to it. There might be other species out there that can do it, and they can expand that fleet with the spore drive.
Well, that makes it kind of feel like anybody who's slightly telepathic could do that. So as long as you have a Betazoid or a Vulcan or...
Hello, Betazoids. Hello, Nivarians.
Yeah.
Maybe.
See, just before we recorded, I just tweeted out, I didn't like the fact that Book can use this thing. I didn't like that at all. And the thing that I tweeted out just before this is so what do you need to run the spore drive? What is the spore drive? It's a spore drive. It's an alternate to warp drive. How does it work? You either need to torture a space bear, inject space bear DNA into your body, or you just need to be able to feel real hard.
I mean, I guess that's one way of putting it, but I disagree. I like that there's
Space Bear?
I like that there's more than Stamets that can use it, and really, I think what the message is that if you are someone that can make some kind of connection with the spores or in this mycelial network, that you can make this thing happen. Again, I'm thinking of it on a symbolic level. Connection can get you places, but it does kind of make it so that there are limited options. Not everyone's going to be as strong of an empath as Book is. I mean, I think it's an interesting use. I mean, it is something we're introduced to in this episode, like, hey, Book, because of who he is, can use the spore drive. But they have set up that he is a strong empath and can make things happen and make connections and ask things of kind of the natural universe. So I was a little surprised by it, but I really liked it because it expands things out and ends up becoming about connection. I hope that at some point where they go with it is that you don't necessarily need a person, that there can be a technology that can do it, and you don't need a person to do that. But for now, I think it expands it out, and I like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it beats worrying about the supply chain, right?
One thing that's bothering me about this, and I feel like I have forgotten when this happened, but at some point it was established that travel with the spore drive was damaging to that part of...
That's I think that there's a part that you're not remembering.
That's what I thought. There had to be a fix here.
In season 2, they thought that the spore drive was damaging the mycelial network, but it turned out that it was Culber in the network that was doing the damage, not the spore drive itself. Okay. So that actually established the spore drive does not damage the mycelial network in and of itself.
That and Giorgio's...
Thank you. I knew I was missing
Giorgio's
something.
giant ship.
Yes.
That was what was destroying it, because that was what powered it. Was that big ball of...
The Palace ship was damaging it, right?
Because it was just sucking it all in and not using it up.
But they said back in season 1 that they needed to stop using it because it was damaging it. They shut it down until season 2, when Pike's like, "Oh, we got special dispensation to be able to use it this time."
No, Brandon. They had shut it down because the Federation did not like that they were doing genetic engineering effectively on Stamets. That's why they shut it down, not because it was damaging the network. Right. I'm positive of that. I'm absolutely positive.
But I had this problem with it when we talked about it back in season 2, and I brought this up. I was a guest on the line when we covered the episode where they jumped to New Eden, and I said so they're just going to be able to use it every week now. They've already established that it's been shut down, and now they've got special dispensation to use it whenever they want, which means they're just going to completely forget that, and that's exactly what they did.
No, I think what happened.
Warp 5 speed
hold
limit.
on, but I think what happened was they got special dispensation in season 2 because of what was happening with the Red Angel. Right? They got special dispensation that it was okay that Stamets had been genetically engineered, and they were going to deal with it after that. But the after that was that they went to the future. And I think we need to see, but I think in this future Federation, this kind of genetic engineering isn't a problem for them anymore for one reason or another.
The biggest
I think it's consistent and not a problem.
The biggest issue they had back in season 1 with the spores that was giving them grief about using it was the fact that they couldn't grow them for a while. Remember, they had they showed it right at the beginning of the first of the series. Now, I had the chance to go back and watch the first couple of years again about this because I had to refresh myself. And they had a big garden in Discovery where they were doing it. Now, it all died at one point. So it was a matter of finding more of the spores. And once they did that, they were good to go. So to Brandon's point, they were destroying the mycelial network, but it was the alternate universe Stamets with that giant ship. After that, they were golden.
Doing it. Yeah.
But it was bleeding over into every other dimension, because that was one of the points that was brought up in season 1, is that if they destroyed it in the mirror universe because of their overuse of it, it would destroy everything, everywhere, in every dimension, everything.
Right, and that's why they destroyed the giant ship, because that was the thing that was doing it. It would regenerate after that. Remember, there was the episode after that. They went to the planet and they shot all the spores into the planet with those missiles.
The darts.
And they regrew it. Yeah. And that's what got everything going again, so they're good to go.
But what they grew was the spores. Like, they didn't regrow the network. They grew what they needed.
The damage to the network stopped when they destroyed the Palace ship in the mirror universe, and then it could repair itself.
There you go.
The sense
we need to go back and redo season 1 of Discovery and season 2 for this podcast.
I literally,
so.
I am going to be doing a rewatch.
I'll get into the. I won't get into the horrible details of it. My wife and I ended up getting COVID early or late in November, so we had a couple of weeks to sit and watch TV. So I rewatched Discovery for the first 2 years, And so that's why because there was a bunch of holes in there in my own head that I needed to fill. So I had the time to sit back and watch it. Yes, we've recovered. Everything's fine.
You've definitely watched it sooner than I have, more recent than I have.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah, it's worth a watch again.
Yeah,
I got the
did not.
DVDs for the Blu-rays, I should say, for Christmas again. I'll be watching them again.
Actually, tomorrow I think I'm going to start back from the beginning because I'm interested to see how season 3 fits into all of that.
It is awesome. You will like it. I guarantee. On a second watch, when you watch it as a whole season and you binge it, it's actually really good. And there's things you'll forget that you'll come back to remember. And go, oh yeah. So if you get the chance to do it,
I've rewatched season 1 at least 3 or 4 times, I think. But it'll be interesting to see it like all together.
Yeah, and you still pick up stuff though. That's what I found too. Things I've this is
always. Okay, well, I'm glad I wasn't the only one who was confused about that, although it sounds like we were all in different places, which is even more fun. So there we go. To that end, though, because I was... so they can use... conceivably, they could use the spore drive if they can produce more of them, which there's really no reason they can't at this point. And the Romulans had the capacity to... keep hold of a tiny little black hole, a singularity.
Basically. Although we don't know if they
so
still
they didn't
use that.
Well, so they didn't need dilithium, but maybe that technology.
Did they say
how
how they got there? I missed it.
So
if they
said
something special, did they say something?
Say how what?
I'm sorry?
Were you just saying that was something mentioned that the Romulans had something special in this?
No.
Well,
it was established in Next Gen that they powered their ships with.
Sorry, I thought you were saying
singularity.
something they said in this episode, and sorry, I was confused.
No, they didn't say anything.
Oh, no,
okay,
no,
I know, but I'm going to get into Starfleet engineering here a little bit. They may power it with a singularity, but don't they still use dilithium to channel that power? That's the same thing as the Federation guys. They use the antimatter. All the dilithium crystals are there to do is to channel that power. That's what they're there for.
Stop it from exploding.
So I think the Romulans were in the same boat. Otherwise, they would have owned the entire Federation because nobody would have stopped them.
Except for the fact that they don't exist anymore.
I tried looking it up, and from everything that I can see, I think what they talk about in the Next Generation is that the artificial singularity does the powering, and it means that they don't need dilithium.
Okay.
So I think, but I don't know.
Well, if that's the case, then they should be able to run everything.
On the other hand, in Nemesis, you do have Remans mining dilithium, so that makes it seem like they would use it.
See, and that's why I think it distributes the power. It's what takes the raw power, you dump it into the dilithium, and it distributes it from there. I think that's why everybody
we need clarification in season 4.
Yeah.
On that point.
There's lots of problems with
and
Nemesis,
I'm sure there will be.
The Remans mining dilithium is like pretty low on the list of like, yeah.
The Remans mining dilithium is just like, hey, look, they're enslaved, and here's the thing that they're doing because they're enslaved, and that's it. So
we got a lot out of that. Holy boy!
Oh my goodness, we're like 40 minutes in. Okay,
that's standard procedure for us, I think. Yep. All right, so let's talk about how what was going on in Federation headquarters. Okay. What do we think about sending Stamets away? And I'll start over back to Russell.
I thought it was a great idea. Again, it's going to turn into a plot device because you're going to see that animosity now between Stamets and Burnham. But I think she did absolutely the right thing, at least in her head at the time, because you didn't know Book could run the thing. And it's like, look, if we get him out of here, they can't just jump off to God knows where. We'll never find him again. And my friends will die and all these other things will happen. It's like, we get him off the ship. They're stuck at warp. We got a shot. And I think it was great. It was the right idea. And now Stamets obviously going to be mad about it, but it was right.
What about Vance sending him off to further?
I agreed.
That's what I was
with that, too. You got to get him as far away from this thing as possible, so that the chain doesn't get a hold of him and force him back in there. Like, you look what they took over the ship. They slapped a thing on his head. Boom. All of a sudden, he's doing their bidding. You know, it was like 2 seconds. You know, get this guy away from it. I think step 3 was, okay, we're going to shoot him because we just can't have this guy, easily coerced and brought back to take the ship to do whatever they want. And the last people you want to have it are the chain.
Yeah.
Yep, I was talking to somebody on Twitter about this, and the analogy came to mind of when, after the war, the Americans were doing everything they could to get all of the quote-unquote former Nazi scientists over to the United States so that they couldn't go help the Soviets. And it was find them and bring them over or make sure the Soviets can't have them, one way or another.
Yeah, they end up splitting them up kind of.
Felt like that.
The Russians got a few too.
They did.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was the right decision from Vance. He was like, I appreciate your sacrifice. I'm sorry, but you need to get away from here. But I agree with Russell. I think they're setting up something, and it will be interesting to see what kind of animosity there might be, because you saw Stamets, like, Burnham came into sickbay, and then she was like smiling, and then Stamets was like, and just like gave her a dirty look and didn't want to look at her. So it'll be interesting. I wonder if, I might predict that maybe he'll be on a different ship with a spore drive and doesn't want to be on a ship that's captained by Burnham.
See, that's interesting. I don't think he gave her a dirty look, but he definitely didn't give her a warm look. Now, like, normally what we would have seen in Star Trek, where everything gets resolved at the end of the episode every week, is he would have looked at her, given her a smile, and then we would have had a warm, fuzzy feeling in our heart, knowing that everything's A-okay for next week. And he just looked at her and turned away.
And looked away.
Right? Yeah. And which is good. I mean, like I said, I hope like I said last week, I'm like, I hope this has ramifications later on. I want to see an animosity between these characters, because the stuff with Ash Tyler and Stamets was resolved and pushed under the carpet so quickly back in season 1. So, yeah.
Well, this kind of goes, and again, I'm reaching into the past here. This goes against Gene Roddenberry's thing of having the conflict happening between the main characters. So you're seeing the writers starting to get away from that right now, as they're allowing those main characters to have conflict. And I think it's good. It doesn't have to be a huge, giant, fist fight, blow up type thing. It's just, there's going to be some underlying stuff there. And I'm interested to see where it's going to go.
Yeah,
and I think it's realistic to see that, and we've seen that kind of thing for the most part since Deep Space Nine, where they're main characters, where there's some friction, and I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Yeah.
So, why is Cronenberg there? Who is he?
I don't know. I was happy to see him, but I'm curious because you love Cronenberg, Brandon. Like he was there with Vance, and while they were trying to get Discovery to not kind of go away with Osira, and he's giving some kind of advice. Like, what, Brandon, what role do you think he has? I'm really not sure at this point.
I still think he's Section 31. I mean, he, like, even in the Romulans and stuff where they would have a ship, there would be like a Tal Shiar operative there all the time, right? And so, like, we could be at a point right now where the Section 31 is just out in the open, and they're just there. And so that's just what I'm assuming he is right now. Okay. So did he need to be there?
Yeah,
no. Was it great to see him? Absolutely, because it's David Cronenberg and he's awesome, right?
I'm with Brandon. I loved him there. I thought he was great. I love David Cronenberg.
That's cool. Yeah, and I think he Cronenberg has said that he'll be back as Kovic in season 4. So we will see more of him, which will be really interesting, I think.
Well, just before we get too far into this, I want to just say, do you remember when they went to the Trill planet? The lady who is in charge of the Trill. Okay, Karen Robinson is her name. She was on Schitt's Creek. Do you guys remember seeing that? Did you ever see that show?
No, I never saw the show, but
I've meant to watch it.
Well, this is my personal connection to her and Star Trek. Her and I went to school together.
Really?
Yeah, I saw your tweet.
Yeah, we went.
Wow.
We went to Mount Royal College. We went to MRC together. We even dated briefly. Great. It was so cool to see her. I'm like, oh my God, it's Karen Robinson. And I remember seeing her in Schitt's Creek, and I thought it was great. And then when I see her in Star Trek, so I'm an even bigger fan now. So
in an alternate reality, you would have played the Trill leader. In a no,
I was never nearly as good an actor as she is. She was talented as could be. 35 years ago, she's done very well for herself. It's so cool to see somebody you actually know on Star Trek. And I was like, yes, my wife, when it first came out, like, oh my God, I'm jumping around like I'm 3. It was amazing. And it's so fun. I just think it's cool when you know somebody who's on the show. So for me, that was a big deal.
That is cool.
No, and I like that. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk more about the ending scenes, but I like that they brought her back and some of the other people that we've seen.
They did, and that's what that's one of the things I like about Discovery is they like to wrap everything up in a more or less tidy little bow at the end.
We didn't see Gabrielle, which I thought was interesting.
We did not. That was an interesting choice. I like to think there was an off-screen scene between Michael and Gabrielle. But I mean, also, I think we were talking last week, like, the Navarre fleet's going to save the day. And they were there kind of as backup, but I thought it was really great that it was kind of the crew of Discovery themselves that was really saving the day. And they didn't actually need the backup or to save the day with the Navarre fleet. I thought that was an interesting
So
choice.
then I'm glad that changed, and I'm glad that didn't pan out the way that I thought it was going to be. So then I go back and I look at this, right? And you got to make stories lean. What's the point of her calling, and what's the point of them coming when nothing happened? They just showed up. They didn't need to show up. They did not need to be there for that battle at the start of the episode. They did not need to be there.
Okay, well, I think there's a couple of things. Like, if you think of it as if you're a person in universe who doesn't know what's going to happen, they felt it was necessary, and they do take part in the battle here. But I think it's another way of showing connection. It's another way of saying, like, Navarre hasn't been part of the Federation. They've been, like, at arm's length for a really long time. But now the experience that we saw in Unification 3 and what's happening in this episode has caused them to say, you know what, this is important enough that we need to intervene. So I think it's a step toward more connection or them being part of the Federation, whether or not that fleet saves the day or not. So I think it works for me. Chrissie? It
occurs to me, in universe, she's Kuat Malat, so she's not going to show up unless it's a hopeless cause. Mm-hmm. So the fact that she's not there...
Maybe.
Yeah, they're pretty fast and loose with that hopeless cause thing. I mean, like, that's... we talked about that in Picard.
No.
We talked about that in Picard.
Hopeless
That's kind
causes
of a
can change.
hokey
I like it.
thing, yeah.
I'm with Chrissie on that. I agree with her. Okay. I like that. That's a good observation.
All right. It's very important issue.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's
a great observation. I'll take it. Yeah. So, anything else we want to talk about with how they were dealing with the battle?
I thought it was weird. This is minor. This is irrelevant. This goes back to the previously on at the very beginning of the episode because. This is minor picky thing, but the last thing they showed us was Vance saying fire on the Discovery.
Yes, it was out
and
of
that
order.
was actually at the beginning of the episode, which gave the implication that that's why they're suddenly firing on Discovery. And when Oser left last week, she just went over there like nothing was going on. So if you remove that previously on, there's no why did the Federation suddenly escalate this to their firing on them? From what happened, that seemed like a rather rapid escalation. Because when she left the station, she's like, you know what? I'm done talking to you, and I'm going to leave.
Oh, hold on.
Choice.
But if you leave out the previously on, which I agree was a little weird because that was out of order from what happened in the last episode, where we left it last week was Oser was like, I can't agree to your terms, forget it. You'll get justice. I'm out of here. And then I think at the beginning, we basically, I think, see Osiris saying, or maybe it was even at the end of the episode where it's like, have the Viridian fire on the shields and let's go. And as soon as that's happening, then the battle starts. I think it makes sense if you take out, because what's in the previously on is out of order. It's weird.
Well, the other thing I didn't like was you got I don't know how many ships they had in the Federation force field, like 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever. And they're all just bliffing away at the Discovery. And it's like shields were down to 50%. That was it. I mean, they were just ripping on this guy.
Super strong shield upgrade.
They must have had because, well, again, maybe they need to upgrade their weapons by a few hundred years because it seemed like there was really not a lot of damage happening,
And that's the thing with Star Trek, okay? Like,
I
say this, like, they're fast and loose with the shields. Yeah. Right. But
very fast and loose.
They're fast and loose with shields on Star Trek in general. Like even in the original series and Next Generation, people can beam in and out of things when it's convenient, and one torpedo can destroy you where 700 can't. This is just a history of Star Trek.
I would argue with that just from the original series point of view, because the worst that ever happened to the Enterprise was the number 4 shield would buckle. That was it. That was as bad as it got. Everything else. But you watch TNG. These 2 phaser blasts later, the phasers were, or the shields were down. I agree with the fast and loose part, though.
Yeah. I think that has tended to happen. However, I think in this circumstance, they don't want to destroy Discovery. They want to try to disable it and stop it. So maybe they have less power to their weapons, or they're just trying to get at certain areas. So I don't know. I could see it, but they're definitely not trying to destroy it because they need the spore drive.
But they discuss destroying it. They're like, if I got to destroy it, I got to destroy it, right? Because
but that's a last resort.
Cronenberg brought up that.
That's a last resort.
Well, Cronenberg said, how's that going to look or something to that effect.
It's going to look like we don't negotiate with terrorists is what it's going to look like, right? If they,
I think they got to bring Cronenberg in to direct an episode.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Man, the
yeah,
body
that'd be
horror
great.
in that episode's going to be wonderful.
Let's not have too much body horror with that, but let's have him direct an episode.
Only Cronenberg has my permission to do eye violence on Star Trek.
Oh, I was about to say, aren't you sick of eye violence?
No, he does not have my permission.
Oh, you have to amend that. Cronenberg or Tarantino,
yes.
Right? Okay.
Tarantino would all be
Tarantino. If Tarantino would do TV, I would have him come back versus maybe doing a feature. But that's me.
I'd rather have Cronenberg, but okay.
I'll go with both.
They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, that's right. I go with both.
Last week's episode of Discovery is Tarantino's favorite because we get to see Michael Burnham's feet.
Yeah. I hate to say it,
thing.
but I thought the exact same thing. It's like, Tarantino will be loving this one.
I never knew about that until you guys were talking about it. All right.
Reel it back in, Chrissy.
I'm sorry. Yes, bad host. Okay, so let's talk about retaking Discovery. Why is there so much empty space on the ship?
Can I give my thoughts
and why
about this?
Does that... why does the empty space have an atmosphere? Now, go ahead.
Okay. So, because I know, like, if we go back to season 2, I know there was a lot of criticism of, like, there's all this space and there's these, roller coaster turbolifts, and in this one it's, I don't know, maybe superconducting or something. So I think a couple of things with that. First of all, I think we need to remember any of these ships that we see in Star Trek are enormous. Just the saucer section and secondary hull of Discovery is almost 500 meters, which is a huge amount. I don't know, that's 1,800 feet or something. That's like a gigantic amount, right? It's like a city block or something like that. So you have a huge amount there, right?
City block, for the entire ship, Okay, like
not for the entire ship, for the saucer and the secondary hull. There's actually more in the nacelles. But let me just talk about a few things because I know a lot of people have a big problem with this. But also I think we need to think about it in terms of what do they need for this ship and why was the ship designed the way it was? It was designed the way it was. Or I think refitted originally to be designed the way it was for season 1 because of the spore drive. There could be something that's necessary for the geometry of the ship in order for it to be a certain size. And the actual space that you need for the crew to really run this ship or for science labs or whatever is relatively small compared to that so that there's a bigger volume inside. Now, also, you might think I'm making a joke here, but we know from the Enterprise episode Future Tense that there is technology by this time for things to be bigger on the inside, so there's that as well.
We didn't have that in Season 2.
Season 2 took place in the 23rd century. The Future Tense, that ship comes from the 31st century.
But they didn't take the technology from it because the ship disappeared.
Hold on. Let me just one more thing here as far as the atmosphere for that. I think there needs to be some atmosphere in there in case something happens, like have it happen in this. What if like the back of the turbolift accidentally opens? Like, is someone just going to die because there's no atmosphere beyond that?
It's a spaceship. It has to have a pressurized inside hull. If you don't, it'll
hold on. I don't think Chrissy means atmosphere as I can step out there and breathe. That's not a problem. I think she means atmosphere in the fact that there's like freaking clouds and you can't see because there's like literally atmosphere. Like, again, this is like a city, right? This is like a city in here. Do you know what this ending was? This was the ending to Into Darkness, okay? What we just saw here.
That's true.
Like, this went on and on and on.
But I loved it. Whatever anybody says about it, I don't care if it's ridiculous or whatever. I loved it. I thought it was exciting.
Right, but I mean, we've got this whole...
It was good.
That's fine that you can love it. But here, it doesn't make any sense, and that's the thing. There's so many people online that are trying to be like, it doesn't matter, and quit complaining about this and that. There's a lot of people that have a problem with this.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I have a very different opinion.
But it's okay to call out when they make a dumb decision.
No, it's fine. I'm just saying... There is no objective like that was a dumb decision. These are all opinions. It's all subjective. So you think it's a dumb decision? I think it's a great decision. That's fine.
Yeah.
But there is no right or wrong answer to this.
That's literally why we do this.
I'm with Justin. It's like it's fine with me. It's whatever it is. It's creative license. It's a TV show. They can kind of do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to have a basis in super reality. you're asking people to suspend logic and to suspend belief a little bit anyway. So that's fine. But I also get if you have a problem with it, well, so be it.
We also have to suspend our disbelief in Star Trek about some of the most basic things to Star Trek. And I think the biggest example is subspace. There is absolutely no evidence, absolutely no theory that supports anything remotely like subspace, but we accept it as part of the premise of the show.
Sure.
So I think I can accept things like, okay, it works that way, and maybe I'm not sure how it works, but it works that way. But we are, I think, always in Star Trek asked to accept certain things that don't necessarily have any basis in our current reality or any scientific theory. So I don't know.
No, I totally agree with that. It is what it is. And if they've decided to maybe hybridize a little bit of original Trek with some of the JJ verse to show the giant spaces in between turbo lifts, okay, it's a big ship. I'm going to roll with it.
The first place we saw that, I think, was in the short Trek on the Enterprise, wasn't it?
No, Brother
Q&A.
was the first time we saw it.
Before we...
Was it in season 2?
Yeah,
with
Brother. The first episode, yeah.
Oh, Brother, okay.
Yeah, I think it might have been there for the Enterprise.
Yeah. I actually, what I meant, it wasn't the cloud thing, although now that you've said that, that makes a lot of sense.
I didn't remember.
No, I was thinking, life support, just, I recognize it's got to all be pressurized and everything. So you're not going to step out there and, it's going to be like space. But, you don't need to keep life support at the same levels for that interior.
I think though you were.
I'm really getting into minutia here.
But I think, Russell, you were saying that like the pressure needs to be a certain thing in order for the hull not to just buckle inwards, right?
Yeah, so, you have to have.
Oh yeah, it's like submarine.
The physics of it, you have to have pressure in the hull. It's like an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have pressure, and that's why they have primary and secondary hulls, because it's like gaps on a bridge in the wintertime. They expand and contract. That's what it's there for.
Right. And in previous examples, when we've seen logical turbo shafts like Disaster and Star Trek V, people are walking in those things, right? So.
Well, yeah, you're looking at space as such a premium. I guess that's what bothered me about it.
But again, because Disco it's the sport drive, they got the spinny parts of the ship and all these things. Maybe it had to be designed different. I just roll with it. That's all I can tell you.
Smile, nod. That works. All right.
It's just interesting.
Listeners, I'm not saying it was terrible. I like to have reasons for things. So, and if space is at a premium on a spaceship, it seems like that's a lot of used up space. But anyway, so then we have disconnected nacelles, and then we're going to disconnect the nacelle, even though it's not actually connected except by magnets.
I don't get it.
Disrupting the magnetic field.
Yeah,
I don't get it. What was the point?
To get them out of warp.
It knocked them out of warp.
So you Oh, okay. Sorry, I was thinking like in general, because they used to be attached to the ship. Now they're not.
And
that's what I was going.
I use the same word for two things. I use this. Yeah. So they are literally disconnected in terms of physical. They're held on with magnetic.
Yeah, but I never understood why that was an upgrade. I don't get it.
It's weird. But
I think they said in one of the episodes it's for increased maneuverability, and
they glossed it over. It's like because at warp they're attached, and then when you're at warp they unattach for maneuverability. I'm like, sure, whatever, okay. Maybe you're right, Chris. Maybe it's like Bookship. They can change where they sit. I don't know. It was never really explained, and it just didn't seem like a really good upgrade. That's all.
I'm just waiting for the Eagle Moss ship with the detached nacelles. That's all.
It'll just be a clear piece of plastic.
They'll be able to do that.
I know it'll
They'll
probably
just
be
have
a
a
clear
little
piece of plastic.
Because it's not that it's invisible. Like there's like some weird white lightning bolts or whatever between it, right?
Yeah, you can see the magnetic field or something. Yeah, so.
It makes it look cool, but I think that's all it was for.
It's just
didn't seem to serve a proper purpose.
So when I've thought about it as well, I think we've seen in previous incarnations of Star Trek that if you hit the nacelle, it can be very damaging or can maybe even make the ship explode. So I could also see it as something, if it's detached, that it's easier if it's damaged to just get rid of it so it doesn't affect the rest of the ship or something like that. But
yeah, that's a good point. Safety feature. Well, what I was getting at to get to when they were dealing with a nacelle, you have Owosukan go up there and damage it, so it's going to disconnect. And we have the dot that apparently has Zora or part of Zora in it. And it's all this seemingly sentient artificial life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know if we've had the discussion of whether or not Zora is sentient, but there is that, it's reminiscent of the exocomps. And you have this piece of artificial life making this decision, and then of course they fix it at the end, and that's wonderful, and we're glad to see that. But
they fixed that one. I think a couple
I just
of them
thought that was
got
very
blown up.
interesting.
Well, see, I think when they got blown up, they were just transferring from one dot to another. That's what I see.
That's
Because
what I
you see
was-
one
That's
get
what I
blown up,
wasn't
and then
sure
two more
of.
go ripping down the hall.
Yeah.
So they must have a fair
Yeah,
bit
there must be a
supply
bunch of them, and the actual consciousness is kind of transferred to whichever one is less vulnerable.
For
at the
my
time
money,
or
though,
something. I
they
don't know.
still have not used
Right.
that spore data to its full potential, and it's driving me nuts. You know, it could just transfer instantly between all these things. Like, look, use it, bring it in, make it part of a plot, something, do something with it, for God's sake.
I think they're getting there.
They're just taking their
season.
time. It's
Maybe
like,
that's
but
how
it's
they'll
like
deal
they
with the
keep forgetting
dilithium.
it's there, you know?
Yeah. See, we talked about last week where I'm like, hey, this is seeding a story element right, where they brought it up and then they left it. They kind of brought it up again and left it, and then we had the cliffhanger last week where they were there. The dots came up there, and then I was disappointed because the dots didn't do anything this episode. All that one did, they got
other than
shot.
that.
One of them saved Osaken, which is okay. Hot take on it. Like I think Osaken should have died. Okay, I love Osaken as a character. She's my favorite bridge crew, but based on what was going on there, I think Osaken should have died because the explosion happened, completely ripped apart the dot, and then Osaken's not even got a scratch on her, right? I mean, like, so it was very anticlimactic at the end, to me.
The way that I saw that, yeah, I could see that. And it felt like where they were going
Yeah.
was for her to die. I mean, personally, I like her not dying because I like the character a
Yeah.
lot. But the way that I saw it was we were told that for these .23s that if they're near this area, the magnetic field can really affect them. So the way that I saw it was able to get her out of the way and to safety in time. But there was something with the being exposed to the magnetic field that affected the rest of it and led to the damage. or something
The dot
like that.
was burnt. It was like scorched and everything.
Yeah, it felt like it hit.
Yeah, I read that as like a radiation.
Well,
burn. Excuse
you
me.
had all the other ones getting shot and blown up, and everybody worked out okay. So, you know.
Yeah. But then, so this is part of my disappointment with the episode, okay? So we had the sphere data, and they've been seeding it out through for the only thing for it to do in this episode is save Osaken's life, to me, was a big disappointment. I hope we get to see more.
Yeah,
but it was just, yeah.
I can see that, but I very much disagree because I think this is also, I mean, it saved Osaken. I think they helped somewhat in the battle, but I think it is also being able to kind of see who the sphere data is really and what they're like and what they're moving toward. And I thought that it was just, I don't know, for me, just like making that connection with this thing that is kind of like artificial life, I think was very interesting for me, and I liked it a lot. There was actually an interview with Michelle Paradise, who wrote the episode and is the showrunner, where they asked about like Calypso, and I think she did say that they're going to bring it in more and connect it up more. But I liked seeing them a lot, and I felt like it was like a different element to the crew or to the interactions that we can see going forward, because for the most part, we've seen these dots in Discovery before. It's been like, oh, it's a maintenance drone or it's just doing this or that. But I think adding the intelligence to it and kind of giving it the personality, I think is a big step forward and could lead to some really interesting crew interactions. So for me, I just loved seeing that in this episode.
I just want to see somebody put
That's why
shield
I felt like
generators on
exocomps.
them, for Pete's sake.
Have a little shield around them.
That's right. You know,
You think they could do that for
that's
themselves?
right. When you're running around the ship trying to help it from a mutiny or something bad going on, you know, if the guys are shooting at it, you got
That'd be
shields.
cool. I mean, the Borg have it
Exactly.
like shields around them.
And you figure 900
that's a
years
little
later,
tech
they
by
could have
then.
some little mini ones in there, and they could do it.
Yeah.
But
That'll be an upgrade.
Well, I hope we see them working with some exocomps and not like the obnoxious one on Lower Decks.
Lower Decks.
Peanut hamper.
Oh, all right. So, memory core. That just looked
the
like
data
it was out of Star Wars in the whole.
I was actually thinking Star
looking
Trek
right
2009 because it was like
White.
bright
Yes.
and white and all that. But
Yeah. Yeah,
Actually,
you're right with the brightness of it. But
Of the
okay,
grid,
so
yeah.
what was that wall?
Programmable
That
matter.
Michael got pushed
Programmable
into?
matter wall.
Well, I
some
know
kind?
that, but why would you have just a big old wall of programmable
Because they
matter
needed
there?
something to push her in.
Like a.
There you go.
Yes,
maybe,
Brandon.
I mean, maybe you just need a supply of it to make something, and it's there on the wall. So
Just grab a handful of programmable matter and, hey, I need a tool.
So
whatever.
Yeah, what I actually interpreted when I saw it was I assumed that
Yeah.
so that big part in the middle was like where all the controls were, but I just assumed that this is a giant computer made out of programmable matter, right? And this is where all the memory is in this programmable matter, and she was just literally pushing her into the quote unquote hard drive of the ship. That's what my brain interpreted as when I was watching it. So
I could see that. Yeah, and after she kills Osira and comes out of it, I think she was like throwing up some of the programmable matter.
Yeah.
I didn't expect
she
that.
coughed up some
Yeah,
shiny
I
stuff.
thought that was kind of funny. That was a nice little bit.
That was good.
Just to cough it out. That's it.
I watched this with my sister, and it was day before yesterday, and we were talking about it, and we came up with the question of, is this a scanner? Can you just like stick something in there, and then it's now part of the computer?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Is now Michael part of
know.
the computer?
I like that whole set. I thought it looked really cool.
It looked very cool, but the whole thing of like you're gonna fall down. And...
Well, again,
I also didn't like that.
if you have the giant area of around all the turbo shafts and everything, it makes sense to have a giant memory core like that where you can fall off stuff. And yeah,
True context. Okay. Do we think it was? What do we think about Michael rebooting the ship? Did that feel too quick and easy for anybody?
I think it's fine. She got control, gave a few orders, and
yeah, moved a few isolinear chips around. Next thing you know, everybody's got air. Woohoo!
yeah.
The isolinear chips are bigger than they used to be.
Well,
They're
they
back
hold
to
more
the size
data
like they
apparently.
were.
I don't know. It's a big ship.
It's
got
like going
funny
from a
Back
phone
to the
to
memory cards.
It's like going from a phone to a tablet.
Yeah, you know.
Oh, there you go.
They
That
got to have
works.
something to
That
run
works.
those turbo lifts or those funky shafts. So
I would have preferred to have seen, like, if Michael Burnham had done that, I would have preferred to have seen Tilly going down there and doing this, with her being the first officer, and then Tilly could have got some final resolution with her and Osira, who took over the ship from her.
Yeah.
That would have been
That'd
a
be
much more wonderful emotional release for me than Burnham and her. But again, this is Michael Burnham's show, and it has to be Michael that saves the day, right? So
I'm
yeah.
okay. Can I say something about
Please,
that?
please.
Because I know you've said it over and over again. This is Michael Burnham's show, and to an extent, it is. It is about her story and her journey, but not everything is about her. She didn't cause the burn, for one thing.
Praise the Lord.
But
Yes, that's good,
I just want to say, because I've been thinking about this, right? And we have been told she's the lead character. She becomes the captain in this show. It is about her journey. But like, Burnham has actually been my favorite character since the start of Discovery, and he's even more so by this time, by the end of season 3. And I really like that. Effectively, like, a lot of the story of Discovery is about a person who can have a lot of flaws, make a lot of mistakes, but despite all of that, is able to do something heroic and have a really great journey, and to be able to help people out. And I've been thinking about it, and yes, like, I think a lot of other people do things, but this is her story is something that I really love, and I think it's great to kind of focus on that. And I think it's very inspirational to see someone that has had all of these difficulties to overcome them, and to be a great person, that you don't have to have perfection. You don't have to be like, a certain thing in order to do that. So, as I'm reflecting on it, I actually love that it is her story in a lot of ways.
See, but that's the problem that I
just
have
wanna
with
say
this, Justin, is the fact that the writers keep telling us over and over and over that she's a flawed character and that she makes bad decisions and these redemptive arcs for her. But that's the thing. She's not making bad decisions. She's not a flawed character.
sometimes
they
she
keep
does.
telling us that she is, but she's not.
I think in the very first episode of Discovery, she makes a bad decision with what she does.
When she neck pinched her captain, that's the wrong decision. But she was in what she was supposed to be doing. Right? She did not start the war. Right? I mean, it's like that's a fundamental flaw of this series right from the beginning. She didn't start this war. This war was going to happen.
But the perception of people, regardless of that, the perception of people is that that's what happened, and perception can sometimes be more important than reality. And I think that she made a mistake there. I think there are things, like even in this season, where she was just kind of going off and going against Saru's orders, where she's making a mistake. Sure, it can work out sometimes, but I'm just saying there are places where she makes mistakes, and I like that despite all of that, that she can be the hero of the story.
But do you label that as a flawed character?
Opinion.
Because our Starfleet heroes have been doing this since... Every human or sentient being is flawed in one way or another. No one is perfect. Everyone has their flaws. But I think in some Star Trek series, we have seen less of that than in other series. And I think we've seen more of it here than you did, say, in TNG, for example, for the flaws for the characters. And so everyone has their flaws, some bigger than others, but I like that we're really kind of acknowledging that here, and that this feels like a real human being making decisions to me.
See, I agree with Justin on that, because if you look back at every Starfleet captain that we've seen, who are essentially the titular head of every show, right? They've all been flawed. They may not have been as flawed as Michael Burnham, or they may have been flawed in different ways, but they all had their flaws. The idea was that a lot of them have worked out the issues around those flaws already. And what we're seeing now is those issues being worked out through Michael that will lead her to be that captain that we are normally used to seeing in Star Trek. And you're just seeing her growth.
I think you're misunderstanding me. I don't think she's a flawed character. And that's how they've written her. They're telling us she's flawed, but I don't think she is. Aside for the neck pinch, right, which was a bad call, what else has she done that's been her flaw?
What about going against Saru's orders earlier this season?
But people have done that all the time in Star Trek, and it turns out to be the right decision, because they weigh their things like, no, we have to go there to do this, to save this for this reason.
Right, and they're doing that now. And they're doing the exact same thing.
Yes.
So
I see where you're going.
I still agree. I think she's a flawed character because they're showing her growth.
Well, so tell me something that she did that's flawed. What's flawed?
Everything.
I already. I don't know if I'd say everything, but again, I think when she didn't tell Saru on that previous episode that she was going off this mission, that was a mistake. That was a flaw. She should have told him, right? But and she was demoted from first officer because of that. So I think we see in the episode she makes mistakes. She is punished for them at some different times. But despite that, she can grow and become a better person and a better character.
But she made the right call there, because Vance himself said, I probably would have given you permission to go and do that. So,
yeah, but she should have asked. She should have put in the chain of command. And I know in Star Trek we see people that go around the chain of command or whatever, but I think we're actually taking it seriously and having consequences within that episode for it, which is different.
Right. But that's the thing.
So I think
it's not even that, because Vance is like, no, Saru, you made the wrong call there. Right? It wasn't her that made the wrong call. It was Saru that made the wrong call in that situation.
Well, again, even a busted watch is right twice a day, right? So sometimes she's flawed, sometimes she's right. That's the case of most people.
I mean, maybe instead of flawed, like, there are mistakes that she makes and better ways that she can do things, and I think that's a natural human thing, but we're seeing more of that, and I like seeing kind of more of that process.
I think if she was flawed...
We're going to disagree about it.
If she was flawed all the time, we'd be calling her Boimler and not Michael Burnham.
I feel like you're looking at this from Brandon. You're looking at this from the more of a literary perspective, because if you look up, like when one says flawed character, if you're talking about this in like an English classroom, an English lit classroom, it's I found the definition. A flawed character is one that has a bias, limitation, imperfection, problem, personality disorder, vice, phobia, prejudice, or deficient or other deficiency, making them I lost my thought. Or deficiency present in a character who may otherwise be functional. So I think we're disputing over what is flaws versus what is the human nature to make mistakes.
Or maybe mistakes in judgment?
Well, yeah. Because I mean, I do see where you're going with that, because if you're looking at what truly bad decisions has she made in her life, okay, the knocking out Giorgio so that she could take command, okay, in the first episode, and arguably the only one I can think of is running away from Sarek's home. that was a genuinely bad decision. But you can excuse that because she's, 13?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't have the capacity to think that through. So, yeah, I'm with Brandon on this one. I don't think she's too flawed.
Okay. I guess my only point is I think we see her challenges and her difficulties and mistakes that she makes, I think, more than other lead characters that we've seen in Star Trek.
Yes.
And I like seeing that. And I feel like it gives the message that despite all of that, you can still, if you have the right intentions, do good things and be a really good person overall. And I think that's an inspirational thing for those of us who feel like we do make mistakes, or we don't know what to do sometimes, or we have, issues within ourselves. I think that's a very inspiring thing, because I think sometimes, like, if I watch other characters that are supposed to be heroic, sometimes it feels like they always know what to do, and they're just always going to be right about what they do. And I feel like Burnham is different, and I relate to that more, and it's inspiring for me more. That's all.
Okay. We'll come back to that with season 4, I have no doubt. All right.
Now, let's talk about her being promoted to captain. So, I don't have a problem with her being promoted to captain, because, again, this is the story that they've been telling this whole time, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Back in the very first episode, the first time we see her, they're like, you're going to be a captain, right? And so I don't have a problem with her being a captain, and it is logical for the story that they've told. I just shared a tweet with you guys that I said in September, 2 of them actually, that were actually very accurate. I said, she's going to, if you don't think she's going to be a captain by the end, you're not watching the show, in a nutshell. But then I also said, I bet you she'll be a captain, but I said, I bet you Saru will be a captain before her. And that actually kind of turned out to be true. I thought that was kind of interesting that I predicted that one too. So, but
no, you're right about that.
It is perfectly in line with the story that they have written, that she is the captain right now. And I don't have a problem with that.
Good.
Yeah, I love that she's the captain, actually. Like I said before, I think it was more moving for me than I thought it would be. And when Sonequa Martin-Green was talking about it when she was interviewed on the Ready Room, I mean, this is something that can also serve, as an inspiration for people, let's say young people or people of color, for like what they can do, what they can accomplish. And I think there's something really great about that. So I really like that they did this. But you're right, it has been coming for a long time. It just took a while.
Yeah, I saw somebody complaining online that it was too soon and whatnot. And I'm like, are you watching this show? Like, what are you talking about? Like, so
it's been 930 years.
Yeah, it's not too soon.
I did have a question. I tweeted out about something that Vance said, and I wanted to get your guys' take on this here. Let's see if I can find the screenshots that I took. 1 second here while I find them. So,
was it toward the end?
When Vance is talking to her, and he's like, not long ago, we were standing right here, and I was tearing into you for not doing it the right way. But I'll be damned if your way didn't work. Is that a backhanded compliment? Because he's still not saying she did it the right way.
I don't think it's a backhanded compliment. I think that because he prefaces it with talking about like his daughter and how she wanted to solve math problems with pictures or something like that. Which, I mean, you actually can in a certain way for certain kinds of math problems, but regardless, I think what he's saying is like there's a definition of like the right way to do things, and you found another way to do that I was skeptical of, and I think he's showing respect for that. I don't think it's a backhanded compliment.
I agree
at least
with Justin. He just said, look, here's how I would have done it. You found another or better way to do it. I like that. So I think that's and that's, for my money, that's a good commander. A good commander will do that. He'll tell you, okay, yeah, you want to do it this way, but if you found a better way to do it and it works, they're gonna praise you for that. That's how you get promoted. Hence why she's a captain.
And as the saying goes, there's more than one way to skin a grudge.
Don't skin grudge. Don't say that. Don't say that.
Not even. No.
Yes, and our Starfleet heroes have been coming up with unique ways to solve the problems for 50-some years, right? So I don't have a problem with that. I'm just like, this sounds like weird the way that he's saying this. That's all.
I think he meant a complimentary.
He did.
Yeah, Vance has shown himself to be impolitic, let's say. So I think that's just more of the same.
Yeah.
So. All right. Big question here. Are we at war with the Emerald Chain?
Does the Emerald Chain even exist anymore without her?
We're told that it's fractured, so I don't think so.
So this goes back to the question of who is Osira, what is the Emerald Chain? Okay. If Osira is just this entity who's acting criminally as a pirate or whatever, blowing up her ship and all those people on it, and we don't know how many people were on that ship.
Not many, because it's probably all turbolift shaft, right? So
That's true. So if that's the case, then it's not an issue. You can chalk it up to, okay, these people were doing illegal things. They were threatening the lives of the Discovery crew. Therefore, it's okay to take their life in trying to get out. That's self-defense. Okay. But if Osira is the equivalent of a congressperson or senator, okay, and the Viridian is her official ship for the Emerald Chain, and the Emerald Chain is a political entity, that's an act of war.
Yeah, against a non-established government. You know, let's face it. The Emerald Chain. I mean, they're not the Federation. They're not One World. They're not. No. They grew out of the Orion Syndicate, right? They're essentially slave traders, criminals, thieves, all these other things.
But it does seem like.
Be careful, you're describing the 13 colonies here.
I am doing that too. I just don't think because they were an established and or government of note that they were not recognized by anybody. Now, are they going to be upset? You betcha. But this is going to go back to my old point. It was they're going to be low man on the totem pole when it comes to delivery of dilithium from that new planet. So you might just render them quite ineffective very quickly.
But I think, Russell, we saw last week when Osira came in and we found out she was a minister and she had this armistice and I've convinced the Congress of all this stuff. They do seem to have some kind of established government that would probably be pretty unhappy with one of their important representatives
being killed. Or she's an excellent liar. And which is I was going with. I mean, there was a certain amount of stuff there, but she was the government. Now she's dead. I think she was running it. And now she's gone. You're going to see that group fracture. And there's not going to be an established government. That's just my 2 cents. Again,
like she was the dictator, and
kind of, and I think it's just they're just going to scatter to the winds.
Okay.
See this?
I think it's really disappointing that they killed Osira off. I think it's disappointing because I think she turned out to be a really interesting character. I would have liked to have seen more of her, and I wish they would have written something else. But I mean, we got what we got.
I would have liked to see more of her, but and I'm not usually like this, but there was something satisfying about getting rid of her as well. So
Justin, oh my,
I'm not usually like that, but yeah, it would have been interesting to see more. It will be interesting in season 4 to see if we do see some representative of the chain or what it's like, or I was a little surprised Aurelio was still on the bridge, and I was like, okay, I guess he's aligning them with them now, and like, what does that mean, and what does he know, and I don't know.
That was abrupt. I mean, I know she choked him out, and that's going to make you not like
that
somebody.
That doesn't usually make you like someone.
But I feel
also, she talked about Aurelio, you and your family, so I think that confirmed that Osira wasn't actually married to him, but to someone else, Orion. So
I don't know. He jumped out of a very abusive relationship easily. Of course, I guess that's easier if your abuser's dead. Something to that.
I don't think that, but that's the thing. I don't think that she was abusive to him. I think this was a first time thing for him, right? I think that what she did to choke him there, that was a first time thing. That's the way that I interpreted it. Where she's like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
But I think she was mentally abusive to him,
I don't know, and I didn't get that because of the discussion we had last week where she was like confiding in him, right? Because I thought that was a really interesting discussion where he's like, "How are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm about to take the biggest gamble of my life and whatnot." But I even asked you guys last week, I'm like, "Do you think she just did this just to have him around?" And she said that right out in this episode. She's like, "Make no mistake, I kept you around because I saw value in you towards me." Whatever it was she exactly said, I'm paraphrasing. Mm-hmm. So you were useful to me, and that's why I kept you around. So, yeah, interesting.
Well, he had useful skills. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting, too. Let's see. We talked about Book navigating the store drive. Do you have anything else we want to say about that? I think we covered it.
Not about that, but I actually want to come back to Sahil for a minute, the guy that we saw in the first episode who's now a lieutenant. So, like, the episode was wrapping up and Burnham was there at Federation headquarters. And then when this guy walked up, who was just so incredibly amazing and charismatic in that first episode, like I've told you guys that I've gotten emotional at Star Trek episodes before and cried, but that's usually like tears form in my eyes and stuff like that. I have to admit, when I saw Sahil, I like broke down and sobbed because there was something about the way he portrayed this guy and how long he'd been waiting and just how genuine the performance was that it made me like break down almost as much as anything else in Star Trek, even though it was a short scene where he's like, you know, you found your way home, and like it was this really short thing, but it just killed me, guys. Like there was just something about that
I liked really that closure.
Yeah.
I said that right off the top. I liked that closure, and I'm glad they brought it back. I wanted them to bring him back earlier. You know, I thought they maybe in passing as they were ripping around, they would run into him.
You know, he doesn't have a spore drive. It's taken him this whole time just to get there.
Yeah, and I thought at some point they would have stopped in to check. Hey, how you doing? Go, you're okay? Everything's good? Do you resupply everything? No, you're okay? All right, great. Nice to see you. And off they go. But they never did. They brought him back at the end, and I'm with you.
Yeah.
I didn't get quite as emotional, but it was satisfying to me to see him.
And it was crazy because I rewatched it today and I broke down like the same way. I knew it was coming. I knew it was there, but I don't know. There's just something that guy, like, I don't know, inspires me emotionally.
That was me in season 2 when we thought Saru was dying and he ended up losing his fear tentacles there. And, oh, man. I remember sitting on the couch. My wife's like, "What's wrong?" "Nothing. There's something in my eye. Leave me alone." You know, that kind of stuff. I love that one.
Yeah, I love that scene too. I thought it was great to bring him back. It was wonderful. I want to point out though that you know, he got there and you know he wasn't a member of Starfleet or anything, but he was watching over that post for a really long time. And I just want to say that they saw him and brought him in and made him lieutenant faster than Harry Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is true.
Personally, though, he'd been doing it for 40 years. I think I might have started him out at least lieutenant commander.
I think by the 32nd century, Starfleet has a Kim regulation that you can only be an ensign for so long.
No, he's probably still an ensign.
We do that now. It's called failing upward. Not for Kim.
Poor Garrett. He gets nothing but grief.
Yeah. Yeah, he needs to show up in Picard or something.
He's the Rodney Dangerfield of Star Trek. He gets no respect.
No respect, yeah. I know, it's the one thing that's painful when I watch Voyager. Like, I know he's not going to get promoted this whole time. Dang.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about one scene, though, that we kind of... Go ahead.
1 second. I just want to say there's a parallel between Sahil and Sakal in that they are completely alone for a very long time. And I don't know if there's anything else to be said about it, but there is that parallel, which I think
I just want to extend on that for a moment because I think there's Saru and Sukal making the connection, right? There's Sahil making the connection with the Federation. There's even Book and Burnham like making the connection between them. I mean, there's the connection that's being made with, you know, Earth and Trill and Navarre, and like there are all of these ways in which they're talking about connection. And before I forget about it, we move on to the next thing. I really want to read what Burnham says like in one of her last logs here because it really meant a lot to me. So she says, "Disconnection, that's how this future began. One moment in time that radiated outward until no one even remembered that connection was possible anymore. But it is. The need to connect is at our core as sentient beings. It takes time, effort, and understanding. Sometimes it feels impossible, but if we work at it, miracles can happen." And that meant a lot to me because everything we've been going through for almost a year here with COVID has been about connection actually being dangerous and potentially fatal, which is something we are not used to at all. And it leads to us being disconnected, and it leads to us wanting to connect in other ways. And I think, you know, once hopefully we're able to be over this and connect more face to face, that's going to be really meaningful. But even though they wrote it before that time, it felt very meaningful. And I also thought about like what I brought up when I was talking about my initial impressions of the episode. What happened this past Wednesday when people took over the Capitol to try to stop U.S. democracy effectively? Those kinds of things happen because of disconnection, I think, because you're looking for connection in this world, and you've made a connection that is actually dangerous in some way, right? And that it's disconnected from a whole other group of people in the world. So I don't know, like when she went through that, I was like, this feels like so meaningful for exactly what we're going through right now, which has to do with being disconnected. So anyway, I just wanted to put that in there.
Brandon, Sorry.
But you had something, Brandon.
That's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about with the sequence at the end there before they warp out of there and stuff. So, and again, this boils down to it being the Michael Burnham show here. I was disappointed that Tilly gave up so quickly and is like, Burnham, you lead us. I was very disappointed in that. So I've talked about this. I'm like, I've been loving Tilly's arc this season. And I don't think that step was necessary. She could have still heard the idea and implemented it as command. But for her to just push command off back onto Burnham and be like, no, you lead us because Michael Burnham's the savior. Again, it left me empty and disappointed. The fact.
Okay, I felt quite differently about it because, I mean, since the beginning, since we saw them together, we've known that Tilly and Burnham are very close friends. I think we also know that Burnham has more experience in Starfleet and with these kinds of things. And Tilly was basically, in command because Saru was off the ship and then Burnham was off the ship. So I looked at it as, at this moment that now they're back together, it's like, Michael, we need you for this. Like, I've been doing the best that I can at this, and I think I've done really well. But for this moment, and for everything that I know of you and that you've been through, I think this is for you. So I actually liked it a lot, and I thought of it as a gesture of respect and friendship and realizing what's needed in the moment.
I totally agree. Totally agree with that. I think it was the right thing to do. She stepped aside exactly as she should have, and it is the Michael Burnham show, so it was going to happen anyway. But in reality, I agree. I think it would, if this was a real situation, I think that would have happened.
Yeah, we're getting some interesting 50-50 splits here.
Yeah, we are. No, I agree. I was disappointed that Tilly did that. If for no other reason than, again, we've established Starfleet rules, or whatever, however you want to put it. She's in command because Saru put her in command, and she stays there until either Saru or a higher-ranking officer removes her.
Well, everybody's a higher-ranking officer.
Mm-hmm. But
until,
by
until
rank,
they
but
might
not
remove
position.
Her. But I think she's just voluntarily saying, I think this is what needs to happen here. And for me, in that scene, in that moment, and everything that they'd been through, it totally made sense. But
yeah,
I will only feel good about that in retrospect if she decides she doesn't want to be command track anymore.
Mm-hmm. See, for me, it doesn't matter what Tilly does. I love Tilly. She can do anything and never be bad.
See, it's possible about
but
that.
I do
Chrissy,
think
because so when Trek Corps, when they originally released the promo stills for the episode, Tilly was wearing red, and then they digitally altered it into blue. So they could be going that route where she changed her mind and does not want to be in command anymore. But I still believe that next season. Tilly's going to be Burnham's first officer. I think that we're going to get that.
I think so as well. And I think we do have precedent for somebody being in blue, Spock, who could still be first officer. So,
absolutely,
there you go. So, but that was my question. Like, is Tilly going to be the first officer? Is she going to be promoted to lieutenant? Like, I was rewatching it today and trying to pause it and be like, does she have lieutenant pips? I don't know. But I think Tilly might. I hope Tilly is Burnham's first officer, and that is something very interesting, which harkens back to the very first episode when you had Giorgio and Burnham as captain and first officer. We have two women together as captain and first officer, and we would have that again, which has been something very rare in Star Trek, at least on screen. So I hope that she is, and she gets promoted to lieutenant.
Because I've had conversations with people behind the scene. They're like, yeah, no, it's fine. She won't be coming back because she was just temporary. And I'm like, yeah, they promoted a woman temporarily in this day and age with fandom. Yeah, that's for sure.
No, I think that she'll remain as the... And like I was thinking about as well as I rewatched it today, like Burnham, when she's captain in the chair, she's like, what's the latest? It's Tilly that gives her the rundown, which is typically what a first officer would do. Yeah. So I think that would make sense.
And I'll be fine if Tilly's your first officer. She should be, okay? Like, Russell was on in the first episode, and when I went on, he was like flabbergasted that I hated Tilly in season 2. I did not like her.
Yeah, I still don't get that.
Okay, but now I love her. I love this arc that she's been on this season. I think
I'm glad you've come around.
And she should still continue to be Burnham's first officer, and I hope that's what
sure.
Now it'll be interesting if Saru comes back. So, like, a part of me, so Saru is my favorite character. He's in a very interesting spot. But if he does come back to Starfleet, it'll be interesting. Are we going to get more than one ship? I don't want to see him as Burnham's first officer.
No.
Yeah, I don't think that would work.
I
think it would only
work
if he was a different position or a captain of another ship, which I would actually love. I've said it before. I'd love to follow two ships. Now, while we're talking about this scene toward the end, I want to ask you guys, because there's been a lot of discussion about this online as well. So, I mean, we've seen some of the 32nd century uniforms when we've been at Federation headquarters, but this is the first time that we see, our Discovery bridge crew in these 32nd century uniforms. I felt that was great because it was symbolic, like, this is our home, this is our purpose now. I really like that. And seeing them kind of all together, I actually love this uniform. I mean, I think I need to think about it a little bit and see what it looks like in season 4, but this may be my favorite uniform in Star Trek, which I think is not a popular opinion out there right now. But I was curious what you guys think of the uniforms and seeing that.
I think they look like they should be taking my bags to my room.
Ooh.
They're awful uniforms.
Man.
Awful. Now, I will say this though: if you're going to cosplay them, if you're guys my size or Brandon's size, might be able to get away with these things now versus the the skin tight one pieces, the jumpsuits, which fat guys do not look good in. But that's about the only thing I can think of that's good of them. Other than that, God, they're awful.
It's so interesting because I look at it and I think these look really like dignified and professional and they're ready to go, and I like the color sequence. But I've seen like both opinions on either side. Brandon, like, what do you think about
I love them. I think they're fantastic. I think they're really cool looking uniforms. I'm glad that we got them. I don't understand why it took so long for them to get them. They should have had them after that first mission where they got the whatever seeds from the ship. They should have had they should have had them after the upgrade and all that, I think. So,
Garrick's distant descendant has to like hand tailor them, so it takes a little while.
All that programmable matter, but you still have to sew something. Yeah, that makes sense.
But what do you think of them, Chrissie?
I didn't think about like or dislike. It's okay. That's the new uniform.
Okay.
And it's not that I take them for whatever it is, because the first 2 seasons of the Next Gen uniforms, I absolutely hate those.
Yeah.
The one-piece jumpsuit thing, it's no.
I always get distracted
Once it went to 2 pieces.
Yeah, but why does everybody in the future have to wear a onesie?
Yeah.
Well, these ones aren't onesies.
No, they're not. But
no,
again,
they're not.
But you look at it, like you watch Next
weird.
Gen, even after they switch uniforms after the second season, all the guest aliens of the week, whatever, everybody's wearing a damn onesie.
But they had a whole thing. I think part of it, at least with TNG, was they wanted to make it look like it had no wrinkles, so they'd actually like get into like stirrups that would like hold it up, which is really uncomfortable.
Yeah, and they were all made out of wool, and they looked very uncomfortable and tight.
All right, so I didn't think about like or dislike, but I did consider that in the context of other uniforms that we've seen. Okay, so what they are wearing essentially looks like more of a dress uniform than a functional uniform.
It does look very dressy.
Yeah,
it looks a little more dressy, but I think the Monster Maroons look dressier than they need to as well. But
yes, and that comes to my point.
The Monster
Maroons. I don't. They're my favorites too. I love Monster Maroons, but
I like them, but I don't know if I'd be comfortable wearing them. But go ahead.
Well, I get cold all the time, so having 5 layers on sounds great.
I get warm all the time.
Right. So they look like a dress uniform, which tells me about the society. Okay. Now, so going back, historical context here, but you can look at DS9, and they have those very functional. O'Brien can roll his sleeves up, getting dirty while he's working on something. Then they're at war. They have still functional uniforms. There's a slight difference. They actually are more indicative of having to deal with a war because all the colors are muted. Okay. So they're not as visible, right? You look at Next Gen, you have these jumpsuits with no pockets, bright colors. They don't have to hide from anything. They're not at war. Okay. Monster Maroon time, they're not at war. I mean, there's skirmishes with the Klingon, but they're not at war, right?
Interesting.
So I think that when you look at that, at least for me, it is indicative of peacetime. You see it in reality too. If you look at the uniforms that the English were wearing at the Revolutionary War, for one, but at the beginning of World War I, they had dress uniforms. By the end of it, they're in what became fatigues, just like the Americans were. So.
Mm-hmm. It's a really interesting thought, and like as I think about these uniforms, there is something that looks like a bit more formal or even militaristic about it, which I think is interesting. But I think also they must have some kind of like duty uniform variant when you're working in engineering and like getting deep into stuff, and like even in the original series they had these people that were in like these coveralls or something when they were doing work like that. Yeah. So. It'll be interesting to see, but I just thought it was interesting because I really love them, and I'm glad you do, Brandon. We can at least agree on that.
Yeah, I think they're wonderful uniforms. I mean, I agree with Chrissie that I think they look very formal, and I would also, if with my headcanon, because I am capable of doing headcanon, if next season we saw something a little different that looked similar but more functional, I would say they're dressy because they're launching off with a new captain and a new mission. Is all that I would
could see that.
boil it down to if I had to.
Yeah, if those are their dress uniforms, fine. If those are their daily uniforms, nope. Okay,
I guess we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on all of that before we get into Discovery's new mission and the reformation of the Federation? Unless we've really just gotten.
Oh boy, we've got more.
Okay, that was the last thing. That was the last thing. No, I know. As we're going, I guess Discovery's new mission we've pretty much already covered. They're going to run around and deliver dilithium.
We have, although I just want to make a comment about that. I thought it was really interesting that their mission is basically to kind of help with these shipments of dilithium from these mining vessels and kind of working to better relationships with some of the other planets. For me, it had a very TOS feel, like mining and resources are very important, and it's important just kind of like going out there and making connections and all of that. So I actually liked it when they're playing the original series theme, like at the end of it. There was something about it that was really interesting. Like, okay, our mission now is to go out and make all of these new connections and help to ferry this dilithium. It felt like something that if they wanted to, they could launch into like an episodic show instead of a serialized show in a way.
Absolutely.
I hope so. Yeah, that would be fun.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what Strange New Worlds is going to do. That's why I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I like the Alien of the Week, I have to admit. I can go either way, but...
Yeah, I think season 4 of Discovery isn't going to be episodic week to week, but it's interesting they've opened up something that potentially could have been or could be. I don't know. We'll see. But like they could go to a planet and deliver the dilithium, and there's a certain diplomatic thing or thing they find out about their culture or whatever that they have to resolve week to week or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like I said at the beginning, this could be Adventures of the Supply Chain.
Yeah.
So much more heroism than you think in the supply chain.
Star Trek, supply chain management.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
That is the short trek about oh no, I just forgot his name. The boomer on Enterprise, his family.
Oh, Mayweather.
Travis.
Mayweather,
I logged it. Never mind. Okay.
That's okay.
I couldn't think of his name, so. Do we have any final thoughts, or are we just like...
But before we get to final thoughts, I because it's at the very, very, very end. So after Discovery launches off and Burnham says, "Let's fly," which I want to make a comment about that. I know you don't like it, Brandon.
I groaned so hard when I heard it.
Okay,
She could have said, "Warp me."
But let me tell you what I was thinking about and why I love "Let's Fly," and it may be my favorite of those catchphrases for going to warp. Because it has some elements in it to me that are very Star Trek. Let us do this. Whereas if you think about like engage or, hit it or make it so or whatever, it's someone telling you what to do. And this is let's all get together and do something like this. And one of the things I love about Star Trek is working together. And flying, I think, is about exploration and freedom and seeing what's out there and all of that. So I felt like within those two words, it was encompassing a lot of the things that I love in Star Trek. So... that was just a thought.
I don't understand why everybody needs to come up with their own thing. Like, engage. Like, it's Picard would say, make it so. That was his thing, but that was part of his personality. But my impression is Sisko didn't have a funky saying. Janeway didn't have a funky saying. Archer didn't have a funky saying.
Well, Kirk didn't really either.
Kirk was a head warp factor too. That was it.
Head warp factor.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why we need to have some awesome, really super cool thing. I don't know. Like, they did this in 2009. I guess, right? Like, didn't they punch it? Like, oh, now we got to come up with something cool. So, I don't know. To me, it's just nonsense and we don't need it. I don't know.
But again, I think it's fun, and for me, somehow the one that they've hit upon is indicative of everything I love about Star Trek. So I just want to put that out there. And I also want to say, like, the Roddenberry quote at the end, which I want to read here, he says, "In a very real sense, we are all aliens on a strange planet. We spend most of our lives reaching out and trying to communicate. If during our whole lifetime we could reach out and communicate with just two people, we are indeed very fortunate." And I loved them putting their, again, I know they're hitting on this theme of connection, but there was something about like that whole sequence of the end, even into that quote, that I just love like the whole feeling about it. So I'm done with all my thoughts. I'm sorry. I love this episode so much. I'm kind of gushing about it.
Wonderful stuff.
I got a little bit of final thoughts. Russell, did you have anything?
Oh, please.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Okay, so I got minor things, just quick, lightning speed. I think now that the season is done, going back, not having any additional resolution for Detmer or Non makes both of those episodes less. Those previous episodes.
I think we'll get more in the next season.
We might see Non pop up, but we're definitely never going to address Detmer's PTSD again. This is done, one and done, which is, I think, disappointing. I said that when we got to the episode. I said I think they'll leave it here, but if they do, I'll be really disappointed. So I think that was unfortunate. And
just a basket of disappointment.
Yeah, there's a lot. I was disappointed with a lot of stuff in this, for sure.
It's so interesting because I'm like way at the other end.
Like,
of the
I don't
scale.
like. I was so disappointed the first time I watched this episode that I hated this episode. After getting over my disappointment, I enjoy the episode. Okay, so, and I think you can listen to this discussion. I have a lot of positive things to say about this episode. There's a lot of positive stuff here. Having Burnham believe in the no-win scenario was just cringeworthy to bring back that reference. Yeah. So it's like, yes, that's right. Burnham is just as good, if not better, than everybody we've ever had in Star Trek. And that's what it feels like when I hear something like that. To bring back to such an iconic line that is identified with a character like Jim Kirk, it's
okay.
Well, maybe that's where he got it from.
Sure, yeah.
Oh,
so
there you go.
I loved it.
Yeah, that's all I got to say on that. So,
okay.
That's just those couple little things.
I think for whatever it's worth, we all might be overthinking the "what am I going to say when the ship goes" thing, because it was made such a thing in Lower Decks. I personally had never thought about it before the captain on Lower Decks was like, "Oh, I got to have a thing." So I think they're making fun of it there, and now we're aware. But that's just me. Okay.
Did Pike have one in season 2? Because
Yep.
Hit it.
What did he say? Hit it. Yeah. So we had punch it, and then we had hit it, and then now everybody's got to come up with their own funky thing, and it's like, yeah, whatever.
It's a thing now. We just roll with it. See where it goes.
Russell probably missed mine. I think that Saru should have done spank it.
Well, I remember when Saru took over, and
Mushroom Time.
He was even they even brought it into the show. They were debating what he should
I
say.
forgot about that.
Yeah,
and I remember saw that a lot online. I thought it was
Yeah.
actually quite funny. They were self-aware of these problems or these issues or these fan complaints or whatever, and they brought it into the show. And I thought it was quite enjoyable. I personally, for me, it's just a little bit of business that you have in there that I think is interesting. That's all. But for my final thoughts for the show, I loved how it ended. I said it right from the beginning. I thought they ended it well. They more or less tied everything up in a nice little bow. They'll move on to the next season. We'll see where they go. As for the entire season, again, I thought it was good. They started a little. For me, in the first episode was a little weird. I didn't know where they were going to end up going. And they brought it out, and they went through the whole year, and I thought it got better and better, and I really enjoyed it. I was glad to see where the burden came from. It worked for me. I'm glad to see they resolved it, and that they're going to get back to the important work of being the Federation, hopefully in Season 4.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, well, before we get to the canon connections, for me, my final thoughts, this was a wonderful episode. It was a wonderful season. We've had, 23 straight weeks of Trek?
weeks of Star Trek.
And I'm so happy about that, but also I need just a break. I need a minute.
Guys, I just got a tweet.
We'll
There's a whole new season starting next week, and we got to keep doing this.
Yay! Yay!
Yes, but what is it of?
It's Lower Deck Season 2 and Prodigy at the same time.
along with the short called Star Trek Linus. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No, it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful talking about it each week, but
No.
yeah, I think we all need a breath, and that's all right. I liked how Trekcore was tweeting out what you can watch while you're waiting for new Star Trek today. I think that was Trekcore.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff, including Star
All
Trek.
right, Justin with the Canon Connection.
Oh yeah, sorry. Well, we have to go, but I think there was some
sorry.
interesting things. This was the first Discovery season where we had no Klingon characters. Also, the only other season 3 in Star Trek that did not have Klingons is Enterprise, which is interesting. Owosekun at one point talks about free diving for abalone in the Ogbunike caves, I think it is, which is a real cave system in southeastern Nigeria. And the actor who plays Owosekun, Oyin Oladejo, was born in Nigeria. Awesome. The Holo program talks about the Gormigander, which we had seen previously in Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad, and also describes it as a cosmozoan, which comes from Christopher L. Bennett's Titan novel, Orion's Hounds, which is one that I love, so that was cool to bring that in. Mm-hmm. When Adira beams down to the holo ship, the ship's hologram, she's Zahian, like Queen Poe, which is cool.
I didn't catch... I was wondering what she was... Or
she's Zahian,
yeah. She was Zahian.
Yeah.
Or they were Zahian, I should say.
Yeah.
And interesting fact that Orions have 6 hearts and blood flows in both directions. That sounds unusual. Let's see. So one of the things when Culber is talking about the burn and all of this kind of technobabbly stuff, there is a real thing in there where he talks about polyploidy, which is a condition where cells of an organism have more than 2 pairs of chromosomes. Tends to be in plants, but it's based on a real thing. At the end, there's the mining ship USS Coloma. That's actually named after the town which sparked the California Gold Rush, so I guess that's kind of appropriate for a dilithium rush in a way. The young Su'Kal was played by David Benjamin Tomlinson, who also plays Linus.
Mm-hmm. I heard that
kind of blew my mind. I didn't expect that.
That's
and also,
cool.
I didn't catch it, but I guess Linus is kind of briefly in the last scene.
Yeah, I saw him there, yep.
Yeah. One more thing, which is when in the hologram with Dr. Isa is talking about, taking Su'Kal back to Kaminar. She talks about the brightest of all those many suns, which to me felt like a reference to the brightest star of the short. So that's it. Lots of interesting stuff. And I know I kind of gave a bit of final thoughts before, but I just really love this episode, love this season a lot. I'm going to rewatch it. It may be my favorite season in Star Trek, and I just felt like so good about Star Trek after seeing this. So people can probably tell based on what I've been saying, but yeah, I love this like a lot. That's all.
All right, Russell, thank you so much for joining us for the discussion today.
Well, thanks for having me back again. It's always a lot of fun to come in with you guys and argue and fight and agree and complain and commiserate and all these other great things we do. And love.
Definitely.
That's right. We love.
All comes back to love. Yes. So, where can listeners find you online? And do you have any current upcoming work you'd like to talk about?
Well, let me see. Where you can find me online is highriveronline.com, okatoksonline.com. You can find me on the air at AM 1140, Sun Country 99.7 FM, and the Eagle 100.9. In Okotoks, you can find it on... I believe the internet at any time. You can also find me online on Twitter and on Facebook at Great White Nerds.
Brandon, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. You can find me on the Nerd Party Network. We're now launched with our show, House of Nolan. We've rebranded it as called it just House Lights, a film director series, because we're going to keep it going after Christopher Nolan. So House Lights, a film director series over on the Nerd Party Network. You can find me here with a show called Franchise Fatigue with my friend Zach, where we cover movies, remakes, and sequels. And... Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast with my friends Chris and Tom, where we cover Hitch's films in chronological order, and it's a whole heck of a lot of fun. And if you can't find me, then I'm probably hiding out in the turbolift shaft. It's a great place for hide and seek.
Yeah.
That would be. All right, Justin, where can people find you to talk about how much Discovery is wonderful?
Yeah, I mean, I do talk about how much I love Discovery quite a bit, but I talk about other Star Trek stuff too. I'm on Twitter at TrekFan4747, where I tweet about nothing but Star Trek. And you can find me in our Facebook group, the Federation Council Chambers. Please connect with us there to talk about this and other United Federation podcast episodes.
And Justin, thank you for sharing how this episode made you feel. So I'm glad that it made you feel that way. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing how it made you feel. It's always interesting to hear your perspective, because if like we had 4 people that were gushing about this episode like I was, really that wouldn't be that interesting, would it? Maybe not. But no, thank you. I'm glad you can appreciate that, because it was really very personally meaningful to me.
I'm glad. And I mean, like, what happened definitely affects me and the globe as well. I mean, you guys are down there, and it's definitely going to affect you guys more. And that's an association that I can't get, I don't think, from where I am. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Hopefully, next week will be better.
20th. We're just waiting.
By the next time we meet, there should be a new administration.
Yeah.
That is more in line with Star Trek ideals. Let's put it that. Bring it back to what we're talking about. All right. You can find me in the threads for our episodes in Federation Council Chambers and threads for other episodes of things on the network. I pop in and comment. And right in the Federation Council Chambers on Facebook. I'm on Twitter at the Goddess Livia, where I tweet about Star Trek history and leftist politics. And you can also follow my work in history with my historian partner Jason and I at History with the Szilagys on Facebook, and that will link to our websites when we post things. Thank you so much for tuning into Infinite Diversity. Thank you to our executive producers Ken Tripp, Tony Robinson, and Zach Moore. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the wonderful theme music and Tony Robinson for the awesome show art. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and please subscribe. If you want to reach out, you can find the network on Twitter at UFP Earth, or our show particularly at IDIC Podcast. And you can also talk about any and all of the UFP podcasts in our Facebook group, as we mentioned, the Federation Council Chambers. You could also email us, particularly at infinitediversity@ufp.earth. We're going to take a couple weeks of a break after this wonderful 23 weeks of Trek, but we'll be back soon.
I have a question, guys. Do we want to just tell people what the next one's about so they can prepare for it?
Oh, good call. Good.
Yeah.
We're definitely
confirmed
going to
with that, right?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, we're going to actually have a discussion. Okay. We're recording on the 30th with James Swallow. We're going to be talking about The Dark Veil, I think it's called.
The Dark Veil, yeah. It's a new Picard/Titan novel, I guess you could say, which is really exciting. So, yeah, listeners, if you want to read that and join us for the discussion.
Yeah, that should be out on February 2nd, that episode. So,
yeah. So that'll be fun.
Right,
more stuff.
Get the book, read the book, come back, and we'll talk about the book. Until then, peace and long life.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.